Hello and welcome to Nguyen's Anime Review. I am Joe Nguyen, and in this show I review anime based on story, characters, animation, sound, and enjoyment, and give an overall rating based on the tiering system that I have created. The review is intended to give you an idea whether this is the right anime for you or not, so please enjoy. What you doing there?
Oh, I'm just finishing this review of Ishizoku Reviewers.
Wait, isn't that something you want me to review?
No, why is that?
Isn't it an H?
No, it's not an H,
But it's an ecchi. But it involves guys having intercourse with anime girls, and there's nudity in it.
now you just sound like a normie with no knowledge of this genre.
But it must be trash. I mean, the concept sounds stupid as hell. It must be a bad show. Now, not gonna lie, as trash it is, it's a pretty good show. I doubt it. It seems only good for Mean Valley and only for horny bastards. Well... Ishizoku Reveals is set in a fantasy world. It's not an isekai, it's just a straight up fantasy. Although, this still can be argued, as in the last episode, there was a hint that this specific world could be an isekai. But from what we know, the main cast of characters are not isekai characters, and are actually born and raised in this world. The setup is pretty typical. Our main cast of adventurers hangs around a guild or tavern of sort of place and take on different quests to earn their wages. However, this story is not about going on quests, it's about the nightlife of these adventurers. You see, in this world there are these brothels called succubus joints, where different types of species run their business, and this would be the base of our story. Stunk, Zell, Krim and crew go around these different brothels, sleeping with different variety of girls at hand, and afterwards review the brothel and post their scores basically on a guild's quest board, informing the public of the place they visited. So you're telling me this anime is about guys reviewing monster girls, and we are reviewing an anime about guys reviewing monster girls? So we are judging these guys who are also reviewers? We revealception much? From the concept alone, you are probably curious, how can a show like this be a good show? I mean, if you are watching a review video as well, it's pretty much a similar concept. It's to get information or general curiosity. And since this world is a complete fantasy, the writer has complete reign of what can be reviewed and how the reviews are done, which I found personally very clever. The way the reviews are done are through the use of metaphors and different perspectives. There are normally 4 reviews for the one place the characters visit, and all the reviews are from different types of perspectives. Stunk is a human, and when he reviews things, it's simple and straight to the point. He points out things only humans men would care about when reviewing certain types of species. So it's pretty normal for us viewers from his point of view, but when we start seeing the perspectives of the other characters, that is where it gets really interesting. As reviewers, everyone has different tastes and opinions, and that is where I find this show to be really entertaining and interesting to watch. Seeing stuff from Zell is almost a lot different from Stunk because he is supposedly still a relatively young elf, however, he is just as horny as Stunk. Maybe even more courageous, so his reviews usually come up as more adventurous, as he takes more risks and usually talks about how mana works within different species, as it is something else to look for in a partner. And we have Krim, an angel who is a complete newbie and very curious about the world he's been roped into, so his reviews usually come up as someone who's still learning, or maybe trying something new once in a while, but most of the time likes to play it safe. And the 3 main characters are not the only one who does these reviews. They have a bunch of friends who also partake on their adventures as well. So we have a lot of different perspectives, such as a halfling, beastmen, and vampires, etc. What I like about the concept is the different types and variety of monster girls the show gives us. And because there is so much variety, the different opinions in reviews vary. From the very first episode, the cast reviewed what they preferred: an attractive looking young adult female elf who's actually 500 years old, or a 50-year-old woman that looks like a granny. Funny enough, only the human review, Stunk, would prefer the elf over the human, whereas everyone else took the granny. From that first scene and comparison, I got more invested in the idea of seeing what the other species thought. Some of the reviews can be quite funny and informative with surprisingly a lot of depth. It's not super serious, but it's done quite cleverly on how they review monster girls, and it just piques your curiosity. However, with all that being said, as interesting and as clever as this show is, there's not that much more to it. There isn't really an overlining story or goal for these characters. It's an episodic series about a bunch of guys going around different brothels sleeping with monster girls. There's no conflict or many problems our characters are going to face. Pretty much a standard comedy sitcom in a way. The only kind of character development you have is really Krim, who starts off as a young, naive, curious angel who develops into a closet pervert. But it's kind of amusing seeing each character have their own fetishes and seeing them display it in a review they give as well. But if you're looking for a deep story, this is probably not the show for you. But that is probably the intention, as this is the type of setting that this show has set itself up to be. The art style of the anime is a more fun, cartoonish side of anime. It's not exactly a mature look you would see in anime, but not too cartoonish that it looks western. The best way to describe this art style is it looks like an H, but it's not, as it looks higher quality than most. It kinda looks immature, but I think that's the intention. It's supposed to be a fun looking show, not to be taken too seriously. It's a surprisingly very colourful show despite its obvious adult setting, with many unique character designs, which is expected as this show is about reviewing different species. As for the animation, it's pretty standard affair, not really that flashy or bad. They don't really put that much emphasis on some of the movements because this is ecchi, not an H, so there isn't needed for scenes to look like that. However, where the animation and art does shine is during the sequences when the species are being reviewed. If you ever watch Shokugeki no Soma, these sequences are very similar onto how they evaluate food. Every species they review are put under some metaphorical fantasy animation. You don't see the action happening on screen, but the animation gives you a sense of the idea of what supposedly happened in bed. These can range from very tame to straight up borderline. In fact, it was only really after the controversial episode 3, which was pretty much the peak of borderline itself into H, they toned some of the scenes down. The soundtrack is nothing to write home about. It works for the fantasy comedy setting. It's lighthearted and sometimes suspenseful when they decide to take it seriously once in a while. The soundtrack that stands out the most is during the reviews, which they use some kind of erotic jazz, but at the same time, switch it up depending on the way they review the characters. Now, I'm not saying that these tracks are not memorable, but they do add to the charm of the scenes that it is intended for. The opening is quite catchy, especially if you're a Village People fan, cause not gonna lie, that opening sounds a lot like YMCA. And the ending is also fun and catchy in its own way. The best way to describe these opening and ending songs is a bunch of lads having fun, because that's what it is. It's just straight up fun, and even sometimes funny, these songs. If it's something about sound that stands out in this show, it's the voice acting. You can clearly tell the voice actors were having a fun time and told not to take the premise too seriously. The way these characters say their lines were as if you were listening to someone intelligent, but you can feel a bit of sarcasm in it. Even though Japan, that's not really a normal thing. But it was satisfying listening to some of the reviewers give their ridiculous fantasized fetishist critiques out. And a big round of applause to the female voice actors who are willing to do the moaning voices without having to be in an H. Especially since the main cast sing the opening and ending songs, you can feel that they are having fun. When voice actors have fun, it makes the show just much more fun and entertaining to watch. I'm going to be straightforward with everyone here. If you're a woman, there's probably a high chance you would not enjoy this show as much as a man would. The reason for this is because this is such a mad lad show. The easiest way to describe this anime is a bunch of mad lads go out to bang monster girls. So most of the jokes are catered towards men because most of the jokes are so relatable. Most of the jokes are crude and adult sensitive, which is expected for a show with a theme as adult and mature as this. What makes this show really relatable as a guy, a lot of the jokes will feel familiar and are probably jokes you've said yourself. Heck, a lot of dick jokes are put in this show. And if you're a guy, there's a high chance you probably said one in your life. But if you want more evidence, look no further than the controversial episode 3. In this episode, the guys in the cast went to a brothel which turned them into girls. And they got to experience in some ways what it is like to be on the receiving end of sexual pleasure. Now, I'm not saying all guys want this, but if you are a guy, there is probably one moment in your life you wondered to yourself what happened if you were the opposite gender, and vice versa. I love this episode because not only was it so relatable, but it was also so clever and fun seeing the thought process of these characters, which in turn makes this the most entertaining episode of the series. This show can be enjoyable to watch if you are willing to look past the fact that this is a show about banging monster girls, and looking at the bigger picture on the way the show is executed. You can find a lot of enjoyment. It's entertaining and interesting, and learning about how the world works and how each species work is entertainment. And you can see how clever the joke and the way the reviews are written can be enjoyable. It's generally a clever show despite its meme of a concept. So if you can look past the sex, it's entertaining and clever. Remember, this show is not an H, it's an ecchi anime show that borderlines the near H, but it's not. There are shows that are straight up like that, but this is not it. This is more of a comedy sitcom set in an H world without the H. It's straight up entertaining. For what I'm going to be rating this show, I'll give it a C tier rating. but as a high C tier. It is probably not a show for everyone, but I can guarantee you it's clever and an entertaining show if you can look past the sex, which is there but not really, because remember, this is not an H. The show is great at building its world and characters. The reviews in the shows are clever, interesting and entertaining, and the jokes are relatable, especially if you're a guy. If you are looking for a fun time and willing to be educated and entertained, Ishizoku Reviewers is the show for you. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Yua's Anime Review, and tune in for the next anime review. Please give this video a thumbs up if you want, and subscribe to my channel. Keep watching and enjoy anime, watch what you want, and sayonara!